Man, listen, there's something truly special about revisiting games that shaped our journey. It's not just nostalgia, it's rediscovering everything that made those experiences unforgettable the first time around. These are games that left something inside us, and today they might hit us in a completely different way than they did years ago. So let's revisit 15 titles that deserve another playthrough this year. Batman Arkham Asylum. We have to start with the game that fundamentally changed how we look at superheroes. Batman Arkham Asylum is a 10 out of 10 technical masterpiece of atmospheric density. Even though the sequels went open world, there is something about the tight Metroidvania-style design of the Asylum that feels more personal. Technically, this game introduced the free-flow combat system, a piece of animation logic that was so revolutionary that almost every third-person action game in 2026 is still using a variation of it. The way Batman snaps to targets while maintaining a fluid combo chain requires a level of collision detection precision that still feels buttery smooth. Revisiting this today on modern hardware allows you to appreciate the physically based materials of the cape and the dark, gothic environmental textures that the Unreal Engine 3 pushed to the limit. The hallucination sequences with Scarecrow are still a technical masterclass in environmental manipulation. The game literally breaks its own rules to mess with your head. It's a mandatory revisit because it reminds us that bigger isn't always better. The claustrophobia of the Asylum, the legendary voice acting, and the tight gadget-based exploration make it a flawless experience that hits even harder today.
He must not leave this building. Do you understand me?
There's a bunker on the ridge up ahead. Looks well defended, too. Those field guns speak quickly.
Battlefield 1. If you want a game that makes your high-end PC or console scream, you revisit Battlefield 1. Even in 2026, the Frostbite engine work here is staggering. This isn't just a shooter, it's a cinematic chaos simulator. Technically, the photogrammetry used for the mud-soaked trenches of France and the deserts of Sinai is so advanced that it puts modern titles to shame. But the real 10 out of 10 flex is the Levolution and Destruction 2.0. Every building can be leveled, every crater in the ground is persistent, and the dynamic weather actually changes the sound propagation across the map. When you revisit this, pay attention to the audio engineering. The way a sniper shot echoes differently in a forest versus a ruined city is a masterclass in acoustic ray tracing before that was even a buzzword. The sense of scale, seeing a massive Zeppelin burn and crash onto the battlefield in real time, is a technical feat that requires massive server-side physics synchronization. It's worth a replay because it captures the weight of history better than any other FPS. It's visceral, loud, and technically unmatched in its ability to make you feel like just one small part of a massive, terrifying war. Mad Max. Now, let's talk about one of the most underrated technical gems of the last decade, Mad Max. This game is a 10 out of 10 hidden masterpiece of open-world optimization. Avalanche Studios used their custom engine to create a wasteland that is somehow both empty and incredibly detailed. Technically, the particle and dust simulation is the star of the show. When a mighty dust storm hits, the engine manages thousands of debris entities, lightning strikes, and wind physics calculations without breaking a sweat. It's one of the few games where the weather feels like a genuine boss fight. The vehicular combat physics are where the worth really shines. The magnum opus isn't just a car, it's a complex rig of upgradable parts, each affecting the weight, suspension, and impact logic of the vehicle. When you use the harpoon to rip a wheel off an enemy car, the structural damage shaders make it feel incredibly satisfying. It's a mandatory revisit in 2026 because it's the ultimate lone survivor simulator. It's a game of scrap and grit, where the horizon always feels infinite, and the technical polish ensures that your journey through the sand is as smooth as it is brutal. Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag. To close out this first block, we're heading to the high seas. Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag is a 10 out of 10 because it conquered the hardest technical challenge of its time: seamless naval to land transitions. Even today, the way you can sail the Jackdaw through a tropical storm, dock at a port, and immediately jump into a parkour sequence without a loading screen is a feat of data streaming architecture. The water simulation was a pioneer for its era, using tessellation and foam shaders that still look gorgeous when the sun hits the Caribbean waves. The real reason to revisit this is the emergent pirate ecosystem. The AI of the Spanish and British fleets, the dynamic whale sightings, and the way the shanty system reacts to your crew status creates a level of immersion that the newer, bloated RPG entries sometimes lose. It's a technical triumph of focused scope. It knows it's a pirate game first and an assassin game second. Replaying it in 2026 feels like a breath of fresh air. It's a reminder of when the series was about the joy of discovery and the raw, salt-sprayed freedom of the open ocean. Bioshock Revisiting isn't just a trip down memory lane, it's a study in atmospheric technical design. In 2026, when we talk about immersion, we have to bow down to what Irrational Games did with the water shader tech in the city of Rapture. Even though this game is nearly 20 years old, the way the water leaks through the cracked glass and ripples across the floors was a pioneer in material displacement. Technically, the biovisual style, that blend of Art Deco and biological horror, was achieved through a unique use of specular highlighting that makes everything look wet, cold, and rotting. The real 10 out of 10 hook is the systemic AI ecology. The relationship between the big daddies and the little sisters isn't just scripted, it's a set of autonomous logic behaviors. They interact with the splicers and the environment regardless of where you are. When you revisit it today, you realize how much modern games owe to its environmental narrative architecture. Every corpse, every audio log, and every flickering neon sign is placed with surgical precision to tell a story without a cutscene. It's a masterclass in showing, not telling, and technically it's acoustic layering. The way the groans of the city echo through the pipes creates a sense of dread that many modern horror games still can't replicate. It's a mandatory revisit because Rapture is a place that stays in your soul. Quantum Break. Now, this is a game that was way ahead of its time. Quantum Break is a technical powerhouse that many people skipped because of its experimental TV show format, but in 2026, it stands as a masterpiece of particle physics. Remedy Entertainment used their Northlight engine to create a world where time is literally breaking. Technically, the time setters are a marvel of real-time physics freezing. The engine has to pause thousands of physics-enabled objects, glass shards, bullets, debris in midair, and allow you to interact with them. This required a level of memory buffer management that was revolutionary for its era. The volumetric lighting and global illumination in this game are 10 out of 10. Because the story deals with light and time, the way the sun filters through frozen rain or how the chronon particles distort the air around Jack Joyce is a visual feast. It also used an early version of temporal upsampling that allowed for cinematic fidelity that still looks current-gen today. It's worth a revisit because the combat is a high-speed dance of time-warping abilities that feels incredibly satisfying. It humbles the industry by proving that you can blend live-action storytelling with high-end gameplay systems if you have the technical ambition to back it up. Splinter Blacklist.
We are still waiting for Sam Fisher to make a full-blown return, but until then, you need to revisit Splinter Cell Blacklist. This is the 10 out of 10 peak of tactical stealth fluidity. Technically, the killing in motion system was a landmark in animation blending. It allowed Sam to transition from a sprint to a lethal takedown and back into a crouch without a single hitch in the animation frame data. It turned stealth into a high-speed lethal ballet. The lighting and shadow engine is the real star here. Stealth games live or die by their visibility logic, and Blacklist uses a highly sophisticated light value sensor that calculates Sam's concealment based on the actual lux levels of the environment. The Paladin hub, your flying base of operations, was also a technical achievement in seamless menu integration, letting you upgrade gear and select missions in a physical 3D space. Replaying it in 2026 reminds you how much weight Sam has as a character. The sound design, the gadgets, and the 3 distinct playstyles, Ghost, Panther, and Assault, offer a level of mechanical freedom that modern stealth games often lack. It's a reminder of when Ubisoft was at the absolute top of their game.
Crysis. Can It Run Crysis became a meme for a reason. Revisiting Crysis in 2026, specifically the remastered versions, is a reminder of what happens when a developer builds a game for the future. Crytek's CryEngine was doing things in 2007 that we only recently standardized, like full object motion blur, real-time caustics, and destructible environments. Technically, the vegetation physics are still some of the best in the industry. Every leaf and branch on the island has its own collision box and reacts to explosions and bullets with material integrity. The 10 out of 10 factor is the nanosuit gameplay sandbox. It's not just an FPS, it's a system simulator. The engine tracks the energy consumption of your suit across 4 different modes, forcing you to think like a tactical predator. The draw distance on the tropical islands is still breathtaking, utilizing a LOD, or level of detail, scaling system that ensures the horizon looks sharp even when you're moving at high speeds in a Jeep. It's a mandatory revisit because it represents a time when developers pushed PC hardware to its absolute breaking point just to see what was possible. It's raw, it's beautiful, and it's still one of the most open shooters ever designed. God of War 3. If you want to talk about technical brutality, you have to talk about God of War 3. Even in 2026, this game remains a 10 out of 10 masterclass in sense of scale. When Santa Monica Studio built this, they didn't just make a hack and slash, they built a macro geometry engine. Technically, the opening sequence on the back of Gaia isn't a static level, it's a moving skeletal mesh. The entire level is a character that is shifting, rotating, and interacting with other titans in the background while you fight. That level of parent-child object hierarchy was a massive undertaking that still humbles modern games that rely on skybox tricks. The character rigging for Kratos is another technical flex. He was one of the first characters to feature high-resolution normal mapping that actually showed muscle fibers tensing and blood accumulating on his skin in real time. The dynamic lighting during the Helios fight or the Poseidon encounter uses a high dynamic range or HDR pipeline that was years ahead of its time, making the lightning and fire effects feel physically hot. Replaying this in 2026 at 60 FPS is a visceral reminder of what peak action looks like. It's not just a game, it's a technical monument to rage, executed with a level of cinematic polish that most studios still haven't reached.
Gold in there?
Now, let's revisit a game that was technically and artistically too brave for its era. The 2008 Prince of Persia is a 10 out of 10 masterpiece of illustrative rendering. While everyone else was chasing brown and gray realism, Ubisoft Montreal used a custom cell shading and ink shader engine to make the game look like a living Persian miniature painting. Technically, the procedural animation system for the prince and Alika is the star here. They aren't just two characters running side by side, they have a contextual interaction rig. If you run near a wall, the prince leans. If you jump a gap, Alika catches your hand. It's a seamless ballet of movement that requires thousands of transition frames to look that fluid. The environmental corruption logic is also a technical beauty. As you heal the land, the engine performs a real-time texture swap and particle burst that transforms a dying gray wasteland into a lush green paradise right before your eyes. It humbles the open-world fatigue of 2026 by offering a world that is purely about the joy of movement. Revisiting it today is a breath of fresh air. It's a game that prioritizes flow and beauty over busy work. It's a technical experiment in Zen platforming that we desperately need to experience again. Tomb Raider 2013. The 2013 reboot of Tomb Raider is the game that proved survival horror meets action could be technically flawless. This is a 10 out of 10 revisit because of its environmental physics and material degradation. Technically, Crystal Dynamics pushed the Tress FX hair technology, now evolved into modern strands, to show that a character could physically change over a journey. Lara's model isn't static. The engine tracks dirt, blood, and wetness shaders that accumulate based on your specific actions. If you crawl through mud, it stays on her. If you jump in water, it washes off but leaves her clothes heavy and dark. The hub and spoke level design is a technical masterclass in hidden loading. By using narrow gaps and cinematic squeezes, the engine unloads the previous forest and streams in the next temple, without you ever seeing a loading bar. The scavenger AI also uses a pack logic that was quite advanced, forcing them to flank you and use the environment to smoke you out. Replaying this in 2026, you realize it's a perfectly paced origin story that uses its technical muscle to make you feel every scrape and every fall. It's the game that gave Lara Croft her soul back, and it still plays like a dream.
What the hell? Get the big guy out here!
Far Cry 4. To close out this block, we're heading to the Himalayas. Far Cry 4 is often overshadowed by its predecessor, but technically it is the superior systemic sandbox. This is a 10 out of 10 because of the Dunya engine's AI and wildlife interaction. Technically, the game features a chaos logic, where different factions and animals have overlapping AI scripts. An eagle can dive bomb a honey badger, which then scares a group of Royal Guard soldiers into a minefield, all without player input. This emergent gameplay is a technical achievement in systemic autonomy. The verticality and atmospheric scattering are the real worth factors here. Built to showcase the heights of the Kairat Mountains, the engine uses a volumetric cloud and fog system that changes based on your altitude. The higher you go, the thinner the air looks, and the global illumination shifts to a colder, harsher blue. The grapple and wingsuit physics allow for a level of 3D movement that makes the map feel twice as large as it actually is. It's a mandatory revisit because it represents the perfect balance of the Far Cry formula before it got too big for its own good. It's colorful, it's chaotic, and the technical polish makes the Bumrat look like a place you could actually visit.
Middle-earth: Shadow of War. If there is one game on this list that every developer in 2026 is still trying to replicate, it's Middle-earth: Shadow of War. This is a 10 out of 10 technical legend because of one thing: the Nemesis System 2.0. This isn't just a feature, it is a massive procedural narrative engine running in the background of a high-fidelity open world. Technically, the game manages a database of hundreds of unique orcs, each with their own DNA, their fears, their strengths, their memories of how you shamed them, and even their relationships with other orcs. When an Uruk returns with a prosthetic metal arm because you cut his original one off 3 hours ago, that's the dynamic asset morphing at its absolute peak. The large-scale siege tech is the other worth factor here. Shadow of War uses a specialized crowd AI and LOD batching system that allows hundreds of individual high-poly units to storm a fortress simultaneously without the frame rate tanking. Each orc in that crowd is a functional AI entity, not just a background sprite. Replaying this in 2026, especially on modern SSDs that can stream the Fortress assets instantly, makes the transition from a one-on-one duel to a 500-man war feel seamless. It's a mandatory revisit because it represents the ultimate personalized sandbox. No two players will ever have the same story with their orcs, and that level of technical emergence is something we rarely see executed with this much polish. Alien Isolation. We have to talk about the game that redefined digital terror. Alien Isolation is a 10 out of 10 masterpiece of dual-system AI architecture. Most horror games use scripted scares, but the xenomorph in Isolation is a technical miracle. It operates on 2 AI brains: the Director AI, which always knows roughly where you are to keep the tension high, and the Alien AI, which actually has to hunt you using sight, sound, and smell. The behavior tree logic for the alien is so complex that it learns your patterns. If you hide in lockers too often, it starts checking them. If you use the motion tracker too much, it hears the beep. This is machine learning light applied to a horror setting, and it is still terrifying in 2026. Visually, Creative Assembly built their own engine to replicate the 1979 lo-fi sci-fi aesthetic. They used a technical process called signal degradation shaders to make the monitors look like CRT screens and the lighting feel like it was captured on 35mm film. The volumetric smoke and dynamic shadowing are used as gameplay mechanics. You can hide in the shadow of a moving crane, and the AI will actually lose line of sight based on the light values. Revisiting this today with 3D spatial audio is a sensory overload. It's a game that respects the source material so much that it used the original 1979 sound effects and blueprint designs to build Sevastopol. It is the most stressful 10 out of 10 you will ever play, and technically it remains the gold standard for unscripted horror. Castlevania: Lords of Shadow. To finish our legendary journey, we are going back to the most beautiful Gothic epic ever conceived. Castlevania: Lords of Shadow is a 10 out of 10 because of its fixed camera cinematography and high-fidelity geometry. By using a controlled camera, Mercury Steam was able to cheat the hardware and push the vertex density of the environments to levels that shouldn't have been possible. The Titan boss fights, where Gabriel climbs massive, moving colossi, utilize a physics-to-animation rig that makes the scale feel gargantuan. When you're standing on a Titan's hand, the engine is rendering a 10-mile draw distance of snowy mountains, all while maintaining incredible detail on Gabriel's leather crosswhip. The art direction and material response are the real stars here.
The way the moonlight hits the cold stone of the vampire castle, or the way the light and shadow magic glows reflect off Gabriel's armor, uses a subsurface scattering technique that makes the world feel painterly. The voice acting by Patrick Stewart and Robert Carlyle adds a prestige layer that matches the technical ambition. Replaying this in 2026 is a reminder of when action-adventure meant grand scale. It's a tragic, beautiful, and technically flawless reboot that proved Castlevania could work in 3D if you had the vision to treat the environment like a character. It is the perfect, somber, and epic note to end our revisit list on.
And there you have it, 15 legends that aren't just old games, but the true foundations of everything we love about gaming today. In 2026, with all the power we have at our fingertips, these games look better and play smoother than ever. They remind us that while graphics evolve and hardware changes, a masterpiece is defined by its soul and its technical ambition. Now, I've got to ask you, which of these 15 legends are you booting up tonight? Will it be the tactical stealth of Sam Fisher, the systemic chaos of the Nemesis system, or are you brave enough to step back into the corridors of Sevastopol? Tell me your revisit stories in the comments.